Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Tennessee Congressman John Rose from the 6th District. Congressman, it was announced Friday morning that the unemployment rate nationally has reached 14.7%. That's the biggest number since the Great Depression. We've seen 20 million jobs lost just in the last month. It's wiped out just about all the job gains since the Great Recession 12 years ago. What does Congress need to do about that?
Well, I think we've already done a lot. And, the four pieces of legislation that Congress has passed, I think, have done a great deal to remediate that damage. But nonetheless, obviously, that unemployment number is too high. One of the great things that I would observe, or facts that I would observe, is that we were in the best economy, arguably, in the history of the country. Certainly in my lifetime, I'm 55, just prior to the advent of this crisis. And so, this crisis, unlike this recession or this economic downturn, whatever it's later categorized to be, is not caused by the causes that we see in the past. So we were in a very strong economy. And so the hope is that we can rebound quickly once the economy is able to get back going and people are able to get back to work. And I think Congress has done a lot. If you add up the cost of the 3 or 4 measures that we've taken now, 3.5 measures, I guess, if you look at it that way, a total of 4 bills, it approaches $3 trillion. That's a lot of economic stimulus to put into the economy in a short period of time. And so I think we need to let as much of that take effect as possible. Obviously, it takes some time for those measures to get fully implemented. And then we need to, evaluate where we are. And I think no doubt there will be a need to take some further steps. But I think we need to be careful about that. Resources are not unlimited. We have added significantly to our national debt, now more than 100% of gross domestic product. And so we have to be careful and frugal with our resources. They are not unlimited. And so I think we need to just take our time here. There may be some needed legislation to address particular issues, but I am not in favor of another broad, sweeping relief measure just yet.
Not to help local governments, not to help those people who got the stimulus checks, those who did get them and didn't have them sent to dead people or other people. You don't think Congress needs to pass another one right now? People got bills to pay right now. They don't have jobs. They can't wait for the economy to come completely back if it comes back that quickly.
Well, so we, obviously there's a whole raft of programs that we've put in place, and many of those are just now, starting to take effect. So Paycheck Protection allowed small businesses to keep their payrolls intact, to keep their employees on board, and that was the main focus of Paycheck Protection. Over $500 billion that's been lent over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And so upwards of 30 million jobs that have been saved through that avenue, enhanced unemployment benefits that in many cases are giving employees greater payments than they would receive if they were working. In fact, that may be a problem we do need to address as the economy comes back. And then every American is, depending on their income levels, at certain income levels, below a certain level, is going to receive an economic injury payment. And so I think we need to let those things take effect. There will probably be areas where we need to make adjustments. Some individual groups will probably need extraordinary help beyond what we've already done. But I think we need to let the programs that we've already got in place take full effect first.
Congressman, you mentioned the payroll protection program that ran out of money at first because so much of the money was given to big businesses, not mom and pop businesses. You're on the investigations and the oversight committee in the House. Isn't that something Congress needs to look into to see why that happened, to make sure it doesn't happen like that again if you give more money?
Well, I serve on the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee of the Financial Services Committee, so we would have some jurisdiction in considering Paycheck Protection and making sure that it worked like it should. You raise an interesting question because there's a tremendous amount of oversight. Obviously, the CARES Act itself set up another oversight group that is in place, and then the Democrats came along and created a select committee that's a subcommittee of the main investigation oversight committee. So there there are 8 different levels within the federal government, 8 different avenues for oversight of these programs. So I think there's probably adequate oversight instruments in place. And yes, we need to look at those things, but I think we also have to be careful. The goal of Paycheck Protection and these other programs was to get aid to those who needed it as quickly as possible. So they're going to be, when you do something that dramatic, that quickly, certainly there are going to be some mistakes that are made. There are going to be some unintended consequences. We do want to definitely root out fraud and abuse of those programs, and I think we will do that. But on the other hand, we do not want those efforts to root out fraud and abuse to have a chilling effect on those businesses and the employees and individuals who needed the help.
The money that Congress has spent for state and local governments seems to have a lot of problems with it in terms of being able to be spent for the things. Local and state governments are having problems. They've lost their tax bases completely because of the COVID-19 and the economic shutdown. Do you believe, as the Senate Majority Leader does, that instead, since the state and local governments cannot print money like the federal government can, that all they can do if they don't get more money from Congress is to take bankruptcy?
I don't. Certainly we have some state and local governments across the country that have been poorly managed. What we don't want to do here is to bail them out at this juncture because of the virus. What we do want to do is provide targeted, measured assistance that will help our states and localities navigate their way through this time. But I think we have to be very careful that in doing so, we don't encourage or reward bad behavior. We live in a state where both our state and virtually all of our municipalities have been very well managed from a fiscal standpoint, a few exceptions across the state, but mostly our state is in great shape. And it's not fair for Tennessee taxpayers to subsidize the bad behavior and the mismanagement that has occurred in other states across the country. And so while we want to come to the aid of cities and states as appropriate here, and we've already provided a tremendous amount of aid to states and localities, I think, again, this is an area where those funds are only now beginning to be in place, and states and localities were given wide latitude with respect to how they use those funds. So I think we've done a lot already. There perhaps will be more that we can do, but I think it's a little bit early to decide exactly how any additional aid gets dispensed.
John Rose, Tennessee Congressman from the 6th District, is our guest on Inside Politics. Back to continue our conversation with him after this break.